Hello everyone, welcome to Malekith with the 10 turns guide. So Malekith is quite powerful and he starts with allegiance points for alliances with Dark Elves. He starts with diplomatic relations with Dark Elves, which will help in the beginning, and then extra upkeep reduction for Blackguards, Dread Spears, Bleak Swords, Dark Shards. It's really helpful. So in terms of Lord of Hits, he has control, construction cost reduction, and enemy leadership, which comes in handy. All of this actually helps out in the early game, which is perfect. So we're going to be playing on legendary very hard, minor fraction protection, and AI strength. So this can create some variety, as I've mentioned before, and of course the AI stats modifier on the max. Let's start the campaign. And before we go through, I have a starting army to late game progression example. This is basically the second army that you see there is the one that I'm going to aim to get, with some repeater crossbows. And then you just upgrade to shades, and finally once you have the monsters and the tier 4 units, you just upgrade for those. And this will ensure that you can have the same red line skill for shades than you have with the repeater crossbows. It's excellent, so it synergizes well there. Now we start with her green here, the Sorcerer's of Friar, with a discipline trait. If you prefer a different trait, just start it up again. Let's go with Malekith, join with her, and simply fight the very first battle. If you dislike fighting these early battles, you can just auto-resolve them. They're quite easy actually, and you're not going to lose any units. But the biggest problem is the amount of slaves, which is why I recommend that you take up and fight every single battle. So, as you can see, my deploy faction manner is just to leave the Blackguard of Naggarond to protect the Dark Shards, you know, your missile units. We're just going to go over that hill, and we're going to have these Cold One chariots just trying to find good targets. Overall, there's nothing really here. Even the Skaven Slave Spears cannot do a lot of damage to the Cold One chariots. Of course, you just have to keep them running. That's one of the things. Always make sure that you know how to micro the chariots. Always hit and then keep them running. That's how they're going to do their damage. So they're now running. Just target someone else. There we go. Tell them to move. And they have enough mass to go through. They're cool units, actually. They just require too much micro. So by the time that you micro that chariot unit, it's when you have this advancement of the menace below, which is always a promise. It's always a problem, actually. And it's always a promise as well. I mistake myself, but I actually managed to do it properly. So you can use that wind spell from, that now eludes me the name, from the dark lore of magic. And it's like the bread and butter for damage dealing in the early game. It's a good damage dealing spell. It has a wide area, so the more that the enemy has to be in lines, the better for you, because the more your damage spell will work. So as soon as the Blackguards deal with the menace below, there likely is another one. Let's just make sure that we have yet another chill to the AI. That will cause them to instantly rout. And there's another menace below. Blackguard is going to go over there. You could have like just a swordsman unit and such, but I like to have that. So the Cold One chariots, as you can see, you can micro, of course. You can focus on their micro, but not to the point where you're negligent towards your Dark Shards being, you know, menaced below or other stuff. So that's why I gave them a very weak target to target on, the Skaven Slaves, and that helped out tremendously. Could have done a better casting job there, but I still am learning over there on how to take the maximum amount of that wind spell. It's very fast casting, that's the problem. I'm used to a very slow casting. This is where experience with other lords gets in the way, you know, in other lores of magic. And over here, you notice that I stopped them chasing. That's why, because I want more slaves. And to have more slaves, you need more casualties. So I kind of wanted them to regroup and come forth and attack once more. but now they're gonna go into army losses. This is basically a Skaven slave army, has like a unit of clan rats or two. So always remember, at the end of the battle, always give chase to capture the maximum amount of slaves as you can. Now, as you can see, I get a lot of slaves, so 140 from the battle and 184 if I enslave, which is precisely the option that we're gonna get. And the reason for this is that we want the replenishment, and we also, as you can see, we replenished everything. So there was no casualty whatsoever there. Maybe one dude. Yeah, 119 there. Wow, I lost one guy. Let's fight the battle again, and the same tactic will apply, the same formation with the shielded units in front, with the dark shards behind and the black guard just defending. But in this case, we don't want to go straight forward because they outnumber us. We want to go on one of the flanks. I forgot to set up my lines, my groups. I always like to group up for when I'm playing, and when I'm fighting here, I always like to at least click to showcase the unit that I'm clicking, you know, instead of using the control groups, which is a problem because I'm often recording, which means that often I'm having to not use the control groups, which is, you know, kind of silly. But still, that's because I want to show you, and it's so difficult to do. So I managed to do this. Just a nice strike on those Skaven slave slingers. You know, we really don't want to have to face too many missile units. No. And he actually wasted one menace below on my Cold One chariots, so that's good. That means that those black guards will be able to keep going. Now, yes, we are already in range with the dark shards. Don't worry, a good formation is better than nothing. So just ensure that you send them in, and then maybe send Malekith in to thwart any of their charge plans. Charge the enemy once they are nearby. And use Malekith's wind spell. It does considerable amount of damage. And I'll be ready for the next menace below. So I'm actually joining them a little bit closer, the dark shards, so that they'll fire to the enemy slingers if there are any. There we go. There's the menace below. There's two of them, so that's gone. There's no more threats, actually. And let's just hit anything that they can on the gaps made by my line. So that's a good thing. Now let's create another... There we go. That's a nice wind chill. That's cool. Can't remember the name. I know that it's a wind and then something chill. Can't remember the name of the spell. So I told my cold chariots to deal with the Skaven slaves, and now he's going to take care of the other Skaven slave slingers. And everything else, yep, we're going to take care of the enemy lord, which is a captain basically. We already have some units engaged there. Let's engage over here on the clan rats so that they rout. These are Skaven slaves, so they're going to die very easily. And we want to actually do a nice damage here. There we go. It doesn't take too much. You know, there's other possibilities. You can use the Dark Conduit as well. But I like using the damage spell on the early game, especially because they're so numerous, you know. So the Black Guard successfully defended the Dark Shards, and that's the key point. They always need to do a lot of damage. So any damage that the Dark Shards do, it counts for the Black Guard, honestly. Because it was their job to keep them covered. Now the same principle, you can stop the units to see if they would regroup, and you get a little bit more casualties because you cannot chase them too much. One unit of Cold One chariots is not enough to chase all of this. They're too fast leaving the battle. So you want to capture as many as possible and kill as many as possible. So let's go. One more, and likely that will lead to army losses here. There we go. Let's get the fireball going. Let's charge them in. There we go. And because I'm charging, I have a temporary boost to speed. And that's exactly what I wanted, so that I can capture a few more. You know, remember, to capture, it's always when they are routing. That's the casualties that you can get. either via missile units or via chasing them down. So that's the last unit that should do anything, and likely this is going to be army losses. There we go. That's a nice victory. And as always, chase. Give chase. We got the Crown of Command, which is silly, because it's not like we need that, but still. Let's loot and occupy. That's a decent amount of slaves there. And the case for the slaves is that you need... Well, it's not that you need. It's better if you can reach this amount of slaves, but I'm going to do the playthrough without needing the slaves. So this Sacrifice to Cain is very good for the casualty replenishment rate and the Dark Conduit. And then the secondary one is the Black Arc, because you're not going to need too much of a Black Arc in the early game. Let's get the buildings, income-based and growth-based, and now comes the decision with the slaves. Let's instantly build it up to tier 2, and let's get the Dark Riders. And I'm not going to actually use the slaves, even though I have enough for it. You can go for shades if you prefer here, but I'd like to go for the Altar of Cain. Mostly this is just to go for those death hags, okay? Because it gives replenishment, it's actually good. And I like to have one on my armies most of the time. You can also go for marble quarries if you wish, but honestly I like starting up and having some variety of units available to me. We are going to rush construction, slave cost and growth. We can also go for sacrifices for Cain, but that will be a little bit less powerful, because you do get the rush construction with the slaves reduction, and it's good. You're going to see how. Let's go for Driven by Vengeance in terms of the technology. And the purpose there is very simple, to make sure that Dark Shards, Dread Spears, and the early game units basically are better at their job. So in terms of the research, the diplomacy, don't do this on the first turn. On the second turn, they have a lot more money. So because these guys will survive the second turn, I recommend that you do it then. Okay. Now we can check, and if you remember, this one is 1,000, and this one was 800. So now they have a little bit more money, you know. And that's how you do things. Just try to squeeze a little bit more money, and it doesn't really need anything. It's just, oh, do diplomacy on second turn, you know. You can actually get a peace treaty with Clan Septic, and this is a key factor for our gameplay here, because we want to go after Grombrindal very early, and we'll have to go to peace with Clan Septic. Now I'm going to spend the slave cost. So if you have been auto-resolving, this is where you're going to get the units nevertheless. I will always recommend that you get 4 Dark Shards, but I also recommend that you get Dark Riders with the repeater crossbows. Repeater crossbows are great because of their kiting power, and the dwarves have nothing to really thwart them. It's just free damage, and you get to split their enemy, and that's great. In terms of the abilities, we really want Malevolent. That Hunter's Snare is perfect to go against Grombrindal. Just trap him up, and use up all your archer units or your crossbow units on him so that you kill them really fast. But I like to also use a Supreme Sorceress. It's always helpful to have a little bit of magic available to you. So instead we're going to go either with the Disciplined or with the Spiteful. And this is already planning a playthrough, so a melee attack and weapon strength, this will help you throughout the game, so might as well have a sorcerer with you, okay? Now, nothing else to do, let's move in. The reason why you recruit the Lord in the first turn is precisely to be able to recruit units on the second turn, okay? So that's why you recruit that Lord over there and not before. Let's just encircle here the Altar of Ultimate Darkness. We'll fight the battle, but I wanted to showcase here. That's the very limit. You kind of have to do this like this. And let's go for more Dark Riders with repeater crossbows. No point for me going with the regular Dark Riders because they're just very cheap, and it's like hounds, so they won't do a lot of damage. It's a very light cavalry, but the repeater crossbows are really good units. So let's fight the battle and see how we can do a little bit of a siege. The purpose here is, of course, to get a little bit more slaves. Now, shielded units in front, the Black Guard going in front as well, because now the repeater crossbows and the heroes are the ones covering for menace below. So let's just start the battle and move everyone forward, okay? So yeah, I was just pointing out that these units are the ones that are going to be affected by the menace below, and it's just 2, so we're going to survive those, and it's fine. Purpose here is to use the ladders, get everyone to the top of the ladder, and then get the dark shards to the top of the ladder, because as soon as they are at the walls, it's going to cause army losses, because the enemy is going to have no way of tackling your ranged units. Will just destroy them, and the leadership goes down really fast. Don't worry too much about the towers or slingers. They are not going to do too much damage, certainly nothing that you can't replenish later on after the battle. Okay, just make sure that you're visualizing the army while you're doing these orders. Let's dock with the walls, and this is the reason why you check the army, because you can always see where the menace below is going to go. Send Malekith or send the Cold One chariots, and then have some sort of damage prepared for them. I like to use this here just to ensure that I wouldn't have too much trouble and that I can focus on others so that I can send them to the walls. I'm going to have some difficulty with the micro in terms of sending them to the walls, because there's going to be so many ladders that my AI, so my pathfinding is going to fail a little bit, but just don't panic, you know. Just ensure that at least your melee units are on the wall. As soon as they are, there's nothing that the enemy can do, because yours are superior and you still have some covering power with the dark shards. So that unit of clan rats is gone. There's another one coming here, which is perfect. I'm just going to send them here. Send Malekith in. And now I'm thinking, yeah, I might need to send a Cold One chariot there and just avoid too much damage with the Mike dark shards. Reason why you attack on this side is because it's a much better angle overall for your dark shards. They always have somewhere to hit, and it's really good because they can hit on one side or the other of the wall. And there's this neat place where I put my my repeater crossbows, where you can fire over to the enemies on the higher ground there. So that's good. It avoids a little bit of the fortifications as well. The Black Guard are the real killers here, not in terms of, how to say, it's not in terms of their killing power, but it's the unit that you're going to send to the middle. And the reason for that is because there's nothing he can do about them. He can swarm that unit and it will just mean more casualties for him. So that's where you're going to put that unit in the middle. Make sure you don't put a Bleak Sword or you put a Dread Spear, because they're going to take casualties. That's where the main focus of the AI will be. Usually they treat this like a land battle, so they're going to focus on the middle. Now this is the point where pathfinding becomes a problem, because I'm going to try to send them in over here. There we go. And sometimes they're going to miss the ladders. If the unit is already using the ladders, look at that, they stopped. So that's the big problem. If you want to avoid this issue, just wait until everyone has cleared the ladder, okay? Or just deposit one of your ladders yourself with the dark shards, because they have the ladders. So this was something, me trying to use the walls was a problem. Look at this. He already deployed the ladders and he's not using it. So I'm just going to send him in. And now he's going to use them. So yeah, same thing here. For whatever reason, it didn't work well. These dark shards are refusing to go on that wall because the dread spears were there. So I'm just going to move them manually towards the ladders and then move back. Okay? Little bit of the pathfinding issue. Notice that I'm not even caring about the melee action, because the melee is just going super bad for them, for the AI, and there's nothing they can do about it. There's a little bit of a problem there to cast, so I'm just going to cast like this, And actually, I didn't know this. This spell goes through the wall. Instead of going through the wall, actually goes back. It bounces off. So that was a really nice cast without me knowing that. So always learning situations, even 4,000 hours in. I didn't know that about that spell. I know that it happens for instance with famous ones like Burning Head. I didn't know that it would happen with this. Some a little bit of coffee, always necessary. Look at the pathfinding issues, as you can see. They're not using the ladders. So as soon as I start using the ladders, that's good. Come on. There we go. Now they're moving in. But at least my Dark Riders repeater crossbows are doing nice. I'm actually only requiring my melee units and my magic to do the damage. Blackguards are against clan rats. That's a perfect engagement for them. Let's put Malekith attacking there as well. And let's try to force them to the lower ground. Using a little bit of extra damage here. It's not the best damage, but it will always adds up. And now I'm checking and realizing, oh, there's a lot of issues here with the pathfinding. Where are you going? Okay, now they're going for it. There we go. They're actually spreading themselves up, which is the problem. So yeah. Whenever you have the spell, just check for the best places to deploy it. There we go. It's nice. There's a little bit of damage. I could have done a little bit more. But still, yeah, if I had realized this place would have been better. And this is the problem. One of the units of the Dark Shards is trying to just move completely to a single line. And that's causing the issues. That was a nice shot from the fireball. A little bit of damage extra. It's always nice. As you can see, for instance, this is a good example. The bleak swords that are here, they're taking a little bit extra losses. But the Blackguard has been facing clan rats for the whole time and having no issue whatsoever. Let's see if it doesn't bounce. That's perfect. Now that was a better cast and almost enough to get me to army losses. So yeah, as soon as you get army losses, you should send and capture with one unit the gates so that you can enter with your fast units. Right now, enter with your fast units and start chasing away these units. Okay? Now we're getting a lot of slaves. That's excellent. So 62 plus the 315 here, that's almost 400. You can see we're up to 685. If you have the artisan's house, just repair it. If you don't, get it, because you're gonna need income. Biggest two problems of the early game in terms of province management is growth and income, and I always favor income recently, because I always note that you can deal with the early issues with the income, but you cannot deal if you're growing too fast. Okay, let's use the dictates here for more control. So a couple of slaves gone, and that's the advantage. Of course, you can use those. And notice that I'm recruiting 2 dredge spears, so with Malekith, and still recruiting those repeater crossbows with my other lord, which is very important for the early game. Just don't skip a beat, keep going. So this is where there's some variety. Sometimes Grombrindal actually doesn't come over here. And this is a problem if it happens, because then you'll have to go against him, and he has a powerful army. So he's going against the Skaven here, and this is why I don't recommend that you kill off the Skaven, because it lets you lure Grombrindal into a much poorer position. Okay, so we're just going to move here, and there's several possibilities. Either you fight him before fighting this army, okay, this settlement, or you fight him after. I'm going to recommend fighting after, but if you fight him before, I recommend that you get the repeater crossbows here on Malekith.
What do you seek?
And then you go back and you start hiring a couple of witch elves. Witch elves do a lot of damage to the infantry, and that's precisely what you want early game, especially against the dwarves. And even though they're flimsy, They'll always cause a lot of casualties. So now I'm gonna capture this place before moving against Malekith, because Grombrindal, and that's why I'm gonna have to put them in channeling stance so that they can replenish a little bit, and then get moving over to the slaves, to the Skaven. I'm already calling them slaves. So I have insufficient funds, so I need a little bit more. And this is where I like to fight this battle. So instead of attacking Grombrindal as he teleports into our location, I prefer to do this, okay? I find it to be a little bit better. Now, there he is. He's in forced march, as you can see, and that's where you would fight him. But I prefer to have something extra on my sleeves, because, of course, I would have these witch elves, which is excellent, and that's why you don't skip a beat. But Malekith still doesn't have a 20 army, and he's going to do encircle. He's going to continue the siege, and now he's going to do something nice, which is... there is an ogre encampment here, and that's where you're going to hire both units, and those are going to be so much helpful against Grombrindal. So just move over here. If you want a little bit of a micro, ogres are terrible in the auto resolve, so you could have the witch elves traded off, as you can see. Okay, it's not really that important, because because you've been gathering the slaves, and now notice that I have exactly 801. So you gotta fight this battle if you don't feel like you're gonna do it. It's exactly the same as the Altar of Ultimate Darkness battle. It's a siege battle. You gotta fight it off. It's exactly the same as the last one. And now you sue for peace. They only have one settlement, but I'm gonna show you in the end why this is a better deal for me. Okay, so you just get that, get anything that is giving you more money. I don't like to get early defensive alliances against these guys. So anything that gives you income, because you're going to need that, you're going to go into the red very soon. There we go, especially to deal with Grombrindal, and then later on against Valkia.
So much death.
Malekith is going to go with Raid Leader. That affects both Shades and the Repeater Crossbows, which is exactly what we want at this moment. We're going to get the Burning Head, even though we're not going to use it actually during the playthrough. It's just getting it. And we don't get to hire new mercenaries until 2 turns, so it's not going to affect going after Grombrindal. We just want the Witch Elves there, and she's going to receive it as reinforcements. And yep, right now we are no longer at war. He's going to move a little bit forward because he's going to chase off the Skaven, and he's going to be in a forced march really, really dangerously. If you don't get this, this is a little bit of a tricky situation because I had exactly 800, so that's why you need to keep the slaves so that you can get this, and suddenly you're replenishing everything. And that's great for you. That's really great for you because you're going to need that replenishment after all of these battles, before Grombrindal, of course. Repair the units. And let's go and turn. You know, if you have this barracks, it's nice. I'm going to act as if I don't, because that's not always guaranteed. Okay? Now we skip the turn, and what do you know? Grombrindal is in the worst position ever. He has... only worse than this would be if he had attacked Clan Septic. So we're going to join war. Get some gold. So we already got like 3,000 from them, which is perfect. That's why I want you to sue for peace. And yes, this... oh. I wanted to double-click Malekith, not her. Imagine if I delete her. Ugh, there goes the playthrough. So, we're going to attack Grombrindal, and it's going to tell you Valiant Defeat. But that's where the Repeater Crossbows, we're going to turn this into a Pyrrhic Victory. We can sometimes turn it into Close Victory, but I'm going to be very nervous for this battle, and I'm not going to micro properly. Let's fight it out. So, stand into a corner with your units. You want to avoid being on the low ground, so that's why I'm not on the other corner. Okay, So just stand a little bit on the higher ground, or at least even ground. And then this is what we're going to do. We're going to ensure that our repeater crossbows are going to melt some of the enemy units just on the side. And if you don't know how to micro missile cavalry, it's a little bit difficult, because if they clump up too much, they may hinder themselves from firing, which is a problem, because you would be fine if they would move like that, you know, all clumped up. But you don't want that to happen. So immediately we're going to go against anything that we can and force the AI to really have no solution. Because notice, there's nothing in that army that can deal with all of these repeater crossbows. That's why you get 4 of them. 2 of them, it will be too silly, because they wouldn't cause too much damage. That's why I wanted 4 of them. Okay, maybe 3 you can get away with. But yeah. Now, just realize who is under attack. Remember that you have the Dark Conduit, but in case you don't have it, I'm going to try to avoid using it. Well, I might use it once or twice, but where it's not really consequential, let's say. Be careful against the enemy fire and any quarrelers or thunderers attacking you. You want to deal with the gyrocopters first, or whatever unit is over here. Now, I made a little bit of a mistake there with the micro. They're now moving too fast. So just keep moving them back and back and back. As soon as the gyrocopters here are destroyed, he's just going to send further units to us. And now I'm going to attack these guys. Just spot what unit is being attacked by them and retreat that unit. Don't retreat the others. Because I've retreated those units, I can now do this safely, and I can go back to the micro. And notice that they're still giving me time to skirmish them away to the death. So that's already 2 units that are out of the way. And there's 3 units there. 1 miners and a couple of dwarf warriors with great weapons. That's perfect. You want to keep in their range slightly. You don't want them to just move against your enemy, you know, against the enemy army, your main army. You don't want them to do that. You want them to try and deal with your Dark Rider repeater crossbows as much as possible. This is a very easy, just group them up all with the garrison army. If you don't have the garrison army, this is still doable, okay? It's actually doable with just the reinforcement ogres. So just retreat the units as soon as they're being used. I'm actually going to use... Oh, I forgot. This is not an explosion here. This is targeting my own. Yeah, keep forgetting how it works. So yeah, let's target my own missile cavalry. It's going to do the damage. There we go. That's actually a nice amount of damage, in case you didn't know how it works. So I'm just retreating my troops and ensuring that they can skirmish away, okay? I'm going to tell them to melee on those quarrelers, which is a problem because sometimes the quarrelers are actually in great weapons, which would cause a lot of damage. So let's just go back and back and back and back. Keep an eye. This is why you move like this. Like I'm always checking on my with the corner of my eye. I'm checking if they're already in range of my other units. Okay, you want to have that instead of microing in a way that you don't see that. Okay. There we go. These chariots are doing just fine, but I actually want them to get to some of these units. There we go. We're running out of space to micro, but it's still enough. And I believe now is the time that we're gonna go and issue some orders here. So, Malekith. Actually, not the Malekith. Let me check. Yeah, just double check if everything is fine. Yeah, I knew I need to attack here. It's barely enough time. Let's just move here. You're doing fine. Let's move you there. Let's attack here. I think that will cause them to crumble and to rout. So that's good. Now we're in time. So that was cutting it close, but just be careful, okay? Now, your infantry no longer has a problem. There's hammerers here, sure. I'm just going to plan out a few of these guys damaging. Sending against the hammerers, the monstrous infantry, yes, please. That's exactly what we're gonna do. We're gonna do some damage to them with the chill wind. It's chill wind, right? Yeah, the enemy missile units are going to, of course, focus your good units, but don't worry too much on that. Let me just go back, double check how the micro is going. This is always important, guys. Just make sure that they are in a good position. I could use the Dark Conduit, actually, in someone. Let's use here, because they're fighting great weapons. Let's attack the Iron Drakes. There we go. And if I manage... Do I want to hammers? They're actually destroyed. So I might as well use it on over here. On the front line that is crumbling because of Grombrindal. So let's attack Grombrindal with my archer units. Let's use... There we go. And now I can actually send someone against Grombrindal. Let's send Malekith against him. And yeah, after this point I believe that most people would know what to do. Okay, but what I'm not checking in is actually my cavalry. Notice that. I completely forgot about them. They're under attack. And not the predicted damage, because I forgot about those quarrelers. But still, notice how everything is fine. We're controlling. Let's get the ogres going. Malekith can go tackle Grombrindal a little bit. I'm thinking, yeah, we need to take care of these dwarf warriors. There we go. That was a nice cast. Lord of Nagaroth. And now I gotta retreat that unit of swordsmen, of the bleak swords. There we go, just retreat it. It's gonna survive the battle, don't worry, because they are now all leaving. If not mistaken, we are already close to army losses. The only thing left is Grombrindal. And this is where that hunter's mark, you know, the fact that you can get them... yeah, there we go, that's army losses. Grombrindal is unbreakable, so you'll always need to kill him. And the Dark Shards can do it, but you gotta have some way of forcing him to stop. So I just want to ensure that he is slowed down. This doesn't do a lot of damage, it just slows him down a little bit. Okay. Yeah, the Frostbite. Reduced speed, it's always good. He's going after my sorceress. I didn't notice too much. Let me just try to hit him with a fireball. Missed a little bit. Sometimes that can happen. So don't panic. Just micro her away from Grombrindal while your Dark Shards do the damage. And to micro her away, it's just through your units. It's always through your units. Let's use the Dark Conduit once more. There we go. It doesn't cause damage to your units, so don't worry about that. One thing that I forgot is to actually chase off the units, but we're gonna get a lot of them because they were in force march. They are not too fast. Their vigor is completely reduced, and we'll be able to catch them. Besides them being very slow, so that's a victory, and I lose nothing on this battle compared to a valiant defeat. So yeah. That's how I recommend you doing. It also helps that you know a little bit how to micro the cavalry, but it's actually quite nice. And you get 1,600 slaves from this, if you do it right. So suddenly we have no more of a slave problem. We already have enough slaves to build up some stuff or use some rights. And that's the purpose of all this early game, to get Grombrindal and to get a lot of income and slaves from these battles against Grombrindal as well, as that opportunity ensures. So right here, this is where I kind of struggle a little bit. I like to try and keep recruiting, but I also want to ensure that Malekith has the ogres. Because in this moment, I believe that it's better to have the ogres than some dread spears, or for instance, than some bleak swords over there that are weakened. So it really will depend what you will have that will cause that. He no longer can reach there, so that was a problem. was unforeseen, but I can get a couple of dark shards for him. That's cool.
Sorceress of the Dark Convent.
I can actually get the dark shards with this lord as well, then I remembered. She can go for Sheathed Master there, but my sorceress is gonna get Kindle Flame and Burning Head, and I want Raid Leader with Malekith. And now I'm considering actually doing something different, which is to hire a third lord. It's possible, and I'm thinking that it's the best curse in this case. So she's going to be recruiting. Malekith is actually just going to straight up move in forced march, because the sooner that you get to the other side, to Grombrindal, the better, because he's already recruiting another army. Now, the reason why I didn't want to do this, and I don't want to end, is because if you don't have that barracks, you might as well just start recruiting some troops, okay? You don't need all of those troops, but it's good, okay? In case I use him in battle, I want to have that Red Lord with the Malevolent, so the Hunter's Snare. That's actually the best trait that you can have for your secondary lord, because it's just so good. And let's just get a few more repeater crossbows. If you can get up to 8, the final battle is just a fiesta of micro, but it's still quite nice. Now let's go with detects. Whenever you can, just use the detects to ensure that you don't get control issues, at least not until you can come back and fix them.
Possession of the circlet of iron is key in gaining control of the vortex.
We do have a quest. I don't recommend that you do quests early on, or so early on, not until, at least until you've defeated Grombrindal. You can attack these guys for more slaves and income, but they're not always here. That's the problem. Sometimes they're over there, and I don't recommend that you go for it, okay? Just because I got it on this playthrough doesn't mean that it will happen on yours, so I don't want to have that case. I'm going to move where I can ambush, so I just spotted that I have enough movement there. There we go. And I could recruit some more stuff with him, but I believe that it's better to recruit with Alisa.
Foul sorcery.
She's gonna go over here in case the enemy is coming in just to bait. There we go, some Dread Spears.
Favored of the witch.
And Olana is gonna go to that location and hire 2 more of those Dark Rider repeater crossbows. You can hire Dark Shards if you wish. You can hire any other units.
well.
This is just, at this point, how I'm doing things. Get anything that is positive, except confederations. Don't confederate. I'll show you why later on, okay? Even if you have the option, I would recommend against it.
Favored of the Witch King. Move, you maggots.
Let's go with Olana.
Sorceress of Grom.
Let's give him the other Dark Shards. Or should I give... Actually, I already have 4, so you give the Dark Shards if you don't have 4 on Malekith. Otherwise, just give him some more infantry, so that he can have the way to tackle. If you don't have the Ogres, of course, you'll have some Dread Spears. So, of course, I'm always counting that you have a little bit of flexibility. Let's position again where we can ambush. It's so important. And now she's going to go over here and be the bait. That army that you can see that Grombrindal is already recruiting is very important. Let's force march so that you have the necessary movement points later on. You can already destroy this building if it isn't already a Gruth building. That's the sort of variety that can happen in the playthrough, okay? And there we go. They failed to spot the ambush. Let me just show you how I prefer to do these ambushes instead of just swarming over them. You don't have exactly the range. These guys don't have too much range. They have the armor piercing, so might as well just do this. The same principle. They're gonna run towards the run point. You can see that you don't have the range there. Okay. So I'm just going to position here and attack them on their behind. And over here, that's where he wants to rethrall. So I'm going to have a kill zone over there. Just the Dark Shards behind the shielded units. Let's go. I just want to move in. Don't worry too much. If you have more power, they will just try to run away. Okay. if they try to fight, you can always just go back and rejoin with your reinforcements, and then it's a very easy battle nevertheless. Okay, so let's just focus on the Thunderers. By the way, if you manage, because you're attacking from behind, you can easily rout these units. Even if they would turn around and fight, yeah, you can get the Thunderers at least, or you can get the Iron Drakes, which is also helpful. But right now, all that I'm doing is just keeping away from the melee and ensuring that we have the capacity to kill or rout some of these powerful units. You can actually give chase with the chariots and just ensure that your repeater crossbows keep firing. They don't have, by the way, they don't have, and this is why I move sometimes how I move, they don't have fire whilst moving, okay? So just be careful that they are firing because they have the vanguards, but they don't have the firewall moving. So just be careful with you not issuing the order to move when they were just about to fire. That's the only key point. If you want to micro them a little bit better, just ensure that you let them all fire, and that's when you move, okay? Let's get those Iron Drakes. I don't want to spend too much ammunition on the units that are already routing, because we don't have too much time to reach my lines. As you can see, I'm already getting the reinforcements, so there's no way they actually even reach my line before the reinforcements come in. And I'm just going to send them to the R flank, and that's it. This is a Slayer Lord, but it can be anything else. Depending on what you have, you may adapt. I don't see any threats from this guy other than he's unbreakable, so I'm just letting him go and engage. I'm gonna get Malekith there, and that's fine. Let's focus once more on our brave repeater crossbows. People like to talk about the Dark Shards, but I just find mobility such a good way of fighting, you know? Such a good way of fighting. Yeah, you can use some of your spells if you wish. I could have used the Burning Head here, but I just wanted to use a quick spell before going back to the micro. If you can, fire on the ranged units before, so the blasting charges are the ones. And now just send in your forces as soon as you can, or as soon as they are arriving to the end location. Send Malekith first and the ogres. They're the least vulnerable to blasting charges. And now just send in everyone. They're going to go for a full surround. Remember that he's going to go and try to retreat. Malekith also causes terror. So there's all the tools that are necessary there for a mass rout. And there we go. Decisive victory, and once more we get a ton of slaves. And getting so many slaves early on, it's actually really helpful because you don't have a lot of growth. So you want to ensure that once you are building, that you can immediately destroy what you immediately construct, rushing the construction. So instead of having good growth, what the Dark Elves have is actually the rush construction. Let's get Dreaded Slavers, so even more slaves, and it just starts being overwhelming, actually. Let's get the Penumbral Pendulum. I don't know why it was strange there, the order of things, but okay. So now, a little bit of micro. So you don't have... you have 7 units there, which means I can actually move in with Alyssa. Yeah, I'm checking in. I can move in with Alyssa and spot if there's anyone. That's good, exactly what I wanted. So let's move him in Force March, give the units to Alyssa. And that alone is enough to attack that location if you want. But I like to use just the auto resolve. It's very easy, and especially for the purpose of this playthrough, I don't want too many battles. It's already almost an hour long. So yeah, we're just gonna auto resolve. Just confirm that there's no losses here. That's good. If you don't want, you can fight it. Okay. There you go. Loot and occupy. You get a little bit more growth and casualty replenishment rate, so that's nice. There we go. Remember, it's not exactly a good building for growth. You gain a little bit more growth by using the dictates, you know, as well. So let's go for this enemy. He's gonna retreat. That's fine. There's another army coming in. That's good. And this is precisely why we rush Grombrindal, because he's gonna have at the most, if you do the rush right. Let me disband this lord, just give him the root marcher, and I'll disband. There we go. So that we don't have to pay his upkeep. Let's get a few more dread spears. I prefer to have those. You can have the lords, by the way, but I don't see Grombrindal here, so I don't feel like he's actually gonna regenerate or, you know, return from wounded anytime soon, so that's fine. Get anything except defensive alliances and confederation. I'm going to show you why you shouldn't confederate. For instance, ground, it's definitely because of Valkia, okay? But it's always because while the enemies are focusing on these minor factions, they're not focusing on you. And if you confederate them, then they're going to focus on you, and you're still dealing with Grombrindal, okay? So that's why I don't recommend that confederation to happen, because then Valkia is just going to declare war on you. Don't worry about the black arcs. Currently, it really isn't. If you're rushing there we go, sacrifice to Mathlan. If you are rushing, it's going to be available in one turn. There we go. If you're rushing Grombrindal, you don't really need the black arc because it's not the range is not enough, so it won't help you against Grombrindal, especially at this stage. Let's find it out, and we're gonna have a cool way of finishing this one. Sometimes you just have to fight the siege, okay, or just siege them out and see if they will sally out. But in this case, I'm just gonna fight it as a final battle. It's a Pyrrhic victory. By the way, you can take the auto-resolve. It doesn't take you too much damage. And yeah, notice that because of the slaves, because of the income that you get from post-battle loot, you're able to actually keep going and recruiting more units. And of course, you're already getting the buildings to have that income. Now, I predict that he's not going to be here. Yeah, there we go. He's just going to wait for the reinforcements. So you've realized already by now how I'm deploying my units. So just shielded units in front, dark shards behind, you know, that sort of idea with some assistance from the ogre brawls on the flanks. And right now I want to see and spot where I can do the most damage, but that's a difficult army because it has a lot more range. So I'm not going to micro as best of my ability, because right now I'm focusing on trying to get this to as least amount of time as possible. So yeah, that's the problem of recording, you know? You don't have all the time for the cheeses or anything like that, or for the best possible micro. So all that I want is to get a nice volley on those Thunderers. Doesn't matter if he gets a nice volley on me as well, because I'm definitely better if he gets some of my Dark Riders. It's fine because he's not going to get he's not going to use those Thunderers against someone more powerful like a sorcerer or something like that. So just keep them ensuring that you keep them moving. By now, yes, I'm going to count that you have the Dark Conduit. Don't forget about that. Okay, so now I'm going to use it in my chariots, and that immediately destroys that unit, if not mistaken. Yeah, there we go. It's not completely destroyed, but about it. And now I can remove the Dark Riders here. Unsure why they didn't do that much damage to the Thunderers, but likely because I was getting some casualties. But still, the purpose here is to buy a little bit of time. Buy a little bit of time so that you get your troops, okay? Right now, no one is engaging. So I want 2 extra Dread Spears here, 2 extra Dread Spears here. These guys are just going to go here. There we go. There we go. Dark Shards can go here. You can go here. There we go. And you guys, you can join in with group 6. That's good. That's 1 unit that we can focus down. Yeah, these guys, there we go. They're just gonna go straight up over there. Now I can merge all the units and it's fine. I already told them where to go, so my lines are gonna be very well done, okay? And after this point, any damage that you can get with the repeated crossbows is good, or with your cold ones. I'm seeing that unit completely away, so you just scoop the edges and try to see if you can find anyone to kill, okay, with your missile cavalry. I'm going to risk a little bit. I don't recommend too much, okay? I could have just moved around again, but I just wanted to get a few more shots. Over here, it's fine. They do a lot of damage, the Cold One Chariots. They have missile, you know, and I'm going to get these guys over there as well. There's another unit of Quarrelers that we might get. So I'm focusing here on getting a little bit more damage and sacrificing some health. So be careful with that. Let's position here. Reason why when you're microing you position so far away is just to buy you time. In case you forget, in case you have to micro somewhere else, then at least you already told them to go pretty far away. Yeah, it's kind of sad that Dark Riders with repeated crossbows, they don't have firewall whilst moving, because that would make them so overpowered. Not overpowered, but I mean, you already see how much damage they can manage, let alone if they had firewall whilst moving. So yeah, maybe that's not overpowered. Maybe that's actually enough, because people tend to use Dark Shards, so that would give them a nice niche ability, even though I kind of consider him really good. So again, he's sending in some Thunderers, so he's starting to screen properly. He has the Thunderers in front, but he has the units as well. Let's alt move everyone to a better location. And look at this. I already have a couple of flanks prepared, and the enemy is completely in disarray. He's not in a cohesive formation. There's gaps everywhere, and I'll be able to actually do some damage because of it. Here, there's no possibility of actually engaging. You know, I can engage, but I'll always lose because there's a lot of missile units over there. But over here, we have some possibilities. We can actually avoid a little bit of those Thunderers, and he keeps moving them and running them, so that's hindering a little bit of his vigor. Let's protect my Cold One Chariots. They're not as fast moving. There we go. There we go. There we go. That's going to be the end of that unit. So yet another unit that you can get because of the skirmishing cav, and your front line has yet to engage. Your missile units have yet to engage. So yeah, put them back a little bit if they're under threat. And at this point, I can actually just send them to the left, you know. Send these guys to the left. Let me focus with the chariot. There we go. I'm going to do a mistake here very soon, okay? And I want you to learn from it, which is that I'm going to engage the Quarrelers with my Dark Riders. And I'm forgetting that they're Quarrelers with great weapons. So be careful with that. If they have great weapons, you cannot engage them in melee. And I just thought, well, maybe I can just engage and finish them off earlier. And suddenly I was like, oh, that was a dumb mistake. I didn't check if they had great weapons or not. Even though I've lost a lot of health with the Cold One Chariots, they're still quite powerful. Chosen of Cain. Yeah, Chosen of Cain indeed. And now I'm thinking some of my Dark Shards are going to be able to attack. These are miners with blasting charges, so I kind of want to ensure that I do a little bit of damage yet again with the pendulum, with the wind spell whiff over there. I'm so used to the pendulum stuff, like look at that. The pendulum, I managed to perfectly plan it out. I didn't manage to perfectly plan it out, the chill wind. So this is the mistake. There's some great weapons there. I actually send enough units to deal with it, but still. Thunderers are gone, and I just sent my whole infantry line ahead. You send the Ogre Bulls against either single entities or against powerful melee troops, okay? So blasting charges, I'm just checking. Let's go, dwarf weapons, there we go. Just move them a little bit ahead, just so they can fire on the enemy missiles. This is where we get Flaming Sword of Rune. And there we go. Let's give it to the Dread Spears. And now I'm actually thinking, oh, I'm winning on the flank. No, I'm not. Those are Quarrelers with great weapons. So this is where I realized, I should have noticed. Should have noticed, actually. So if they have those, it's a little bit trickier. Of course, 4 units against 1, it doesn't matter, but that wasn't the case. And now, even if the enemy pushes through your lines, usually the Dark Shards themselves can kill them. So, for instance, that enemy lord or hero that is moving in is not going to do too much. Right now, I'm in his lines as well. Plenty of his infantry units are routing. I can use Witch Brew there, so that my ladies start doing a lot more damage. There we go. Let's do what I should have done, which is just missile attack. So learn from my mistakes, guys, as well. But still, I was considering, yeah, I can do the army losses. Look at there. Same issue. I actually thought they could do it, but they couldn't. They were weakened, and that's the problem. But you always have enough melee to deal with this. You can see that they are already going for army losses. And that's the victory. Just pursue everyone, and that should be fine. Try not to chase with the sorcerer like I almost did there. I canceled her in time. Just give chase with the missile units, with the cavalry units and the ogres, and that's fine. Okay? I believe I didn't lose any single unit, which is good. That's precisely the point of actually fighting the battle, other than getting an absurd amount of slaves. So, yep. Everyone survived. That's perfect. We're going to have enough time to replenish because that's the end for Grombrindal. And yeah, this is a rush to Grombrindal. You have to finish off him. You have some good regiments of renown there. I don't recommend getting them to Malekith. I recommend spending them only if you need to defend against Valkia. I like to go absolute power here. It's still a nice ability. You can choose something else, but I like to go absolute power. You can go for a chill wind upgraded, for instance, that which is also nice. But very soon you're going to have to choose the other ones. But hold the line. It's not bad. It's not great. Not terrible. Now I can finally finish him off. Let me just ensure that I am in range. Oh, even if I'm not in range, yeah, I could just encircle. But yeah, loot and occupy, and that's the end of Grombrindal. So that's how you can turn 10, finish off Grombrindal, have a decent start, and from here on then, all that you need is to go after Valkia. And after Valkia with 2 armies, it's perfectly doable. So, especially right now, I would upgrade to Shades, or I would upgrade to Dark Shards with Shields. Those are a little bit better, and you already have a lot of mobility, so you can make up a couple of different armies to thwart Valky's intentions. So let's go Hecati's Blessing. I always like to have that, at least for my sorceress. So yeah, That is good. You can have a lot of different army compositions here, okay? I like to give the Bleak Swords back so that it goes towards my army composition that I showed in the beginning.
Forbidden magic.
Because you can never count on whether you have the ogres or not. Sometimes they cannot be there. Sometimes stuff can change in between patches, and I want to at least use up as much as possible my own units. So we can perform the rite with the Black Ark, and I'm gonna just show you a little bit of the end of the turn and the beginning of the next one. So let me just double check some things here on my notes. Okay, let's go. Let's perform the rite. We get the Black Ark, okay? That's going to be very useful against and to thwart a little bit. You can get some Black Ark Corsairs with hand bows or Black Ark Corsairs normal, which is great. You know, you can have a full army of those that is actually very cheap and can defend Nagorond, okay? And it's going for 2 turns population, but I can rush that to with 50 Gruth, so that's good. We're going to get tier 3 about in 2 turns. And then we can use the slaves to do that as well. Biggest problem that we have is public order, but that's where Malekith and the other lord can just go in and clean up. So the way that I would do things is that I would clean up any threats here, because Valkia is yet to declare war on us. It's not going to declare for a long time. We're only going to advance on Valkia after she has completely finished off Grond. And that's something that I want you to bear in mind. Let me get some treaties here with the Exiles of Nehek. They don't hate you, which is great, because that means that you can keep the peace. So this is where I don't advise that you join Confederation. Why? Let me show you what is happening. Grond is completely defenseless. There's no point, there's no garrisons, there's nothing. There's like one very small army that cannot deal with Valkia the Bloody. But you can buy yourself some time so that Valkia actually doesn't destroy you easily. So you can get Malekith in a good position, maybe even upgrade some units. You have a lot of slaves to spend so that you can get the necessary rushed buildings to get, for instance, for shades or something like that is a little bit better. You know, that sort of idea is what I would recommend. And Valkia is going to take a while to conquer all of those Grond positions, okay? And you can still have a decent army there in Nagorond in case there's some threats. So Malekith in Force March can just go very easily towards Valkia if there's needs be. So yeah, that's what I would recommend for 10 turns. Now, this is another possibility which I don't recommend. So as you can see here, I actually went a little bit for the Dark Shards with shields, okay? Especially I still don't have the Black Ark and it's turn 15. So I'm going to get the Black Ark now, but notice how Valkia took until turn 15 to conquer all of Grond, okay? Malekith, in this case, he has a lot of Dark Shards. I gave them to him instead of investing in more repeater crossbows. But it was turn 15 before I could destroy Grombrindal, all because I took the last settlement from the Skaven. That's why I don't recommend, because turn 15, that's where you want to be there to deal with Valkia. You don't want to be focusing on Grombrindal for too soon. So I definitely recommend that you don't go in and attack the Skaven, because that gives you such an early defeat of Grombrindal, and then it gives you exactly the time that you need to go and face Valkia. I hope this is helpful. Thank you very much, guys, and I'll see you guys on the next guide. Bye bye.